Good afternoon, beautiful humans. Welcome to the Midlife Revolution. I'm your host, Megan Connor, and my cousin, Lori Vallow Daybell, is at it again with a new demand for the court responding to Court TV's ask to live stream the proceedings of her trial in Arizona. For those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. It's good to have you. I am Lori Vallow Daybell's cousin. I grew up with her, spent time with her in the summers when we were young adults. Also, our oldest children are the same age. Colby is about the same age as my oldest daughter. They spent a lot of time growing up together, and I spent about 10 years around the Cox family when they lived here in San Antonio. So welcome to the channel. I am covering everything that's happening in Lori's current Arizona case where she's on trial for conspiracy to commit murder in the death of her fourth husband, Charles Vallow, where she and Alex Cox allegedly conspired to murder him. Lori's already been convicted, of course, in Idaho of counts of conspiracy to commit murder and fraud by deception. She is serving time for that in Idaho, but then she was extradited to Arizona to spend time standing trial for this latest trial. After this trial is over, she will stand trial again for conspiracy to commit murder in the attempted murder of Brandon Boudreaux, who is her former nephew. Her niece, Melanie Boudreaux Pulowski, is the daughter of Lori's oldest sister, Stacy, and Melanie was previously married to Brandon Boudreaux and then convinced Melanie to divorce her husband, ostensibly to engage in some sort of same scheme, allegedly, that they were going to try to collect life insurance. And there was an attempt made on Brandon's life. We believe that was done by Alex Cox, but Lori is going to stand trial for conspiring with Alex to allegedly to murder Brandon Boudreaux as well. So there have been a lot of shenanigans. If you've been following the trial so far, Lori has filed several motions. She has, the judge has granted her request to go pro se or to represent herself. In Arizona, it's referred to as pro per. And she was granted also a request to be referred to as Lori Daybell, formerly known as Lori Vallow. So for those of you who are name enthusiasts, I do a short video on my channel where I explain the reason why she's allowed to be referred to as Daybell. No, it's not her legal name. No, your name doesn't automatically get changed when you get married. She would have had to go to the Social Security office and request that name change. And at the time, she was defrauding the Social Security Administration. So she probably would not have wanted to call attention to herself that way. She asked the judge if she could be called Daybell. He granted her request. So that's hopefully the end of that conversation. Thank you for being here, beautiful humans. Good to see you. Raque, Meme of 8, Mixed Monkey, Margie, Lynn, and Vala, thank you so much for this super sticker, super chat. I appreciate you guys being here with me to talk about the latest development. As always, I follow Justin Lum's X account, Twitter account, and yesterday, about 24 hours ago, he posted this newest motion. And I guess I'm not an attorney, so I don't know if I'm referring to it correctly, if it's a motion or what the proper name legally is for it. But I will show you, and it looks like, thank goodness, finally, Lori has access to a computer, or at least she has access to a paralegal. So her motions are no longer going to be handwritten, although there's still some questionable grammar choices that happen in here. And as always, her arguments are pretty thin. And she is definitely, I don't think, going to be granted this motion, but I think at this point, Judge Boreski is going to have a hearing on it, or at least he's going to have to issue an opinion to respond to Court TV. So I'll talk about what Lori filed, and then we'll go back and look at the Court TV petition. So I will share my screen so that you can see what is going on. Okay, good to see you guys. Thanks for being here. Zero, Asphalt Sally, Gail Starchuck, Vala, Lisa Bite Me, Diana Storm. Good to see you guys. Thanks for being here today. So this is Justin Lum's Twitter feed. This was posted again about 24 hours ago. He says, new, Lori Vallow Daybell slams Court TV's coverage objecting to the media request. Lori Vallow Daybell says she and her husband, Chad Daybell, are in a court TV commercial that runs constantly, falsely characterizing, libeled, and slandered the defendant. I think that's pretty much a stretch because they've both been convicted in a court of law, so it's pretty difficult to say that court TV has done anything to libel or slander. Slander is when someone speaks openly with false allegations or accusations or tries to, defame your character. And libel is when you put it in print. So I guess one could argue that if there is a video description on YouTube that falsely characterizes someone, that could be considered libel. However, I don't think Court TV has said anything about Lori or Chad that's not true, although I'm sure that it doesn't align with Lori's narrative where she is the victim and no one was unalived in this case. So I just want to go ahead and read through this with you guys. Thanks for for enduring this craziness with me. So this is Lori Daybell, and I might just start referring to her as prisoner number G062213 so that we can stop talking about her name. But obviously, she's using a paralegal service that's been assigned to her case by the court. And so I think that's the reason that this particular motion is finally typed out instead of handwritten by Lori. It's a little bit less triggering to not see her handwriting. But she says the defense objects to Court TV's request in its entirety because of the bias they have already created in the community. Namely, Lori Daybell and her husband, Chad Daybell, are the commercial for Court TV. Really? So they think Lori thinks they're basically the one and only commercial. She could be the one and only case that Court TV covers. That's actually not reality, as you know. That commercial, she says, runs constantly throughout the day and has falsely characterized, libeled, and slandered the defendants. The defendants what? Because apostrophe S is a possessive, and we did not have a fill in the blank there of the defendants what? Slandered the defendants' pristine character. That's what I'll put in there because that's, I think, what she normally believes. Going on. Give me 1 second, guys. Sorry. South Texas allergies are real. Okay, next paragraph. Court TV should be ashamed of its very nature and its request, since its sole objective is not to bring people real news or facts, but instead its objective is to entertain the public with the very true life tragedies that happen in real people's lives. So this is pretty ridiculous. As some of you may know, I've been on Court TV several times. I've been interviewed by Vinnie Politan and lots of other people on Court TV, probably 2 or 3 other people at least. And I can definitely say I think their coverage is fair. I think it's fairly balanced. And I also don't believe that they are sensationalizing the news. I think they do a good job of presenting real news and facts. But Lori alleges that instead, Court TV's entire objective is to entertain the public with very true life tragedies that happen in real people's lives. And let's just remember that Lori is the one who has caused these tragedies. She's been convicted of it. So I don't really have a lot of empathy or sympathy for this argument that she's trying to make. Last paragraph here is the defense objects to Court TV being allowed by this court to participate in this judicial process, including their specific request to appear at trial, live stream the proceedings on the web, and distribute the live feed. Dated January 31st, signed by Lori Daybell, who's pro per, and then filed and emailed all of the legal things that they need to do to send this to the court, to the judge, and to the prosecution. So that is her argument. Her argument is that Court TV should be ashamed of themselves and that the defense objects to Court TV being allowed to participate. She objects to their specific request to appear, live stream the trial, and then subsequently distribute that live stream. So I would like to go and read some comments because I'm sure everyone has some things that they would like to say about this, as do I. It's 0. I agree. It's hard to imagine Lori not wanting to be filmed. It's really interesting, right? Of course, she loves being the center of attention. We know this is probably the reason why she wants to represent herself. And so I think this is somewhat of a power play where she just wants to get her opinion in there. She wants what she wants. She does not want to be portrayed in a negative light. So she's trying to prevent media coverage that portrays her in a negative light. She probably would be perfectly happy with a camera crew if the news outlet that was reporting on it adopted her narrative by saying that nobody was unalived in this case. I agree with you as well, Diana. It is not slander if it's true. So, and normally she is the center of her own universe anyway. And yes, please don't forget to hit the like button. If you're here for the first time, please subscribe to the channel. It's the best way to support the channel and make sure that I can continue to create content and cover this for you, as well as other Mormon true crimes at the intersection of narcissism and Mormonism sometimes. I appreciate you guys being here. Over half of the people who watch my live streams are not subscribed to the channel. So I would love it if you would subscribe. I'm almost at 10,000. I'd like to get to that goal before my 1-year podcasting anniversary, which is on April 8th of this year, right during probably jury selection for this trial. Michelle says, pity she never tried any sort of anything in the trial for her own children. Yeah, in fact, she didn't put up any kind of a defense. And it's possible that her defense attorneys refused to file this kind of request in that other trial, although her other trial was not live streamed. If you remember, we got the audio recordings of the trial only. Yeah, and Asphalt Sally says, now I've got to watch court TV just to see this commercial she doesn't want us to see. And honestly, you guys, I don't know where she would get the idea that there's a commercial streaming of her in Chad 24/7, because I don't know how much TV she's allowed to watch in prison. But from what I can tell, court TV covers an extensive number of other cases. And she's not at the top of the list anymore. You know, her trial information is way down there near the bottom. It's only sporadically covered. And I really don't think that they're running anything 24/7 that has to do with Chad and Lori at this point. So thank you for the like, Diana. I appreciate that. It is control, I believe. She just wants to feel like she's being powerful. So she's going to assert herself whenever she can, even when it's really not justified. She didn't want cameras either last time, and she got her way. I think that had more to do with the judge than it had to do with her. Hey, Roxy, good to see you. I'm doing great. How are you doing? Yeah, and who would want to see her unslugged 24 hours a day? Not me. Not me either, I can tell you that right now. So I'm going to go back to the Twitter feed here because I want to look at Court TV's actual request. As you can see, there's plenty of news that doesn't have to do with Lori being reported all over the world. So this was sorry, I'm going to go back one more. Motion to dismiss was denied. I was hoping to find Court TV's petition to have cameras in the courtroom, and I think that's back quite a ways. This is Lori Vallow's. These are her handwritten motions, and maybe at this point Justin has taken this down because I don't see it on his feed anymore as I'm going through this. I apologize if the scrolling is visually jarring to you, but this is the state's response. Requested limitations, Ari, the Court TV media request. So the state of Arizona, this was back on, let me see if I can find the date here. The filing date was, I believe, the 28th of January, 2025, if I can see that correctly. And it says the state of Arizona through undersigned counsel was advised on January 24th, 2025 that Court TV submitted a request to the Maricopa County Superior Court to live stream the trial for these cases on the web and to distribute the live stream. The state does not object to cameras in the courtroom during the trial, but requests the court preclude any media filming, photographing, or recording these trials during jury selection, which I think is a reasonable request, as we talked about before. The presence of media filming, photographing, or recording during voir dire may inhibit jurors from expressing their honest opinions and could result in a jury that's not impartial. The state also requests the court preclude the trial from being live streamed. If the media accidentally films a juror or any conversations at the bench while live streaming, Court TV would not be able to stop the public from seeing the juror or hearing those conversations. If the trial is not live streamed, Court TV would have time to redact anything that was inappropriately recorded before airing it for the public view. And so that was the state's response to Court TV's request to have cameras and to live stream and to distribute the live stream. I think that is a reasonable request. If they do some kind of delay, it might be, I don't know, half hour. Sometimes they do as little as a 30-second or 1 minute delay. And whatever amount of time it would take Court TV to redact anything that accidentally got recorded. So going back now to Lori's response to the Court TV filing, I think it's pretty ridiculous. I do want to read a couple of the comments, though, that are under here by Justin Lum's followers. So Lex asks if it's a death penalty case. No, the death penalty is not on the table for conspiracy. Defense Diary says libeling two convicted murderers. That's a neat trick. William Noel says, I'm not sure how she can play the court system and get away with it. Can we just summarily sentence her and get it over with? William Noel, unfortunately, we cannot. This is part of her constitutional right to a fair and speedy trial and her right to represent herself, unfortunately. Those protections are put in place for a reason, and I think it's important that we honor those rights, even in the case of Crazy Lori. She, as C. Winter says, she's got cojones, Justin. Slander, she's a murderer in Idaho. Sorry. It's all true. Hey, Lori, you can't reinvent the wheel to suit your delirium, although that's what she continues to do over and over. And I like Catherine Javendel says, Lori Vallow Daybell's motion falls far short of the showing required by Arizona's Rule of Court 122D1. Accusations of bad motives of the media are not among the factors to be considered in a judge's decision to grant or deny a coverage request. Thank you, Catherine, for clearing that up. She even posts the link for the rule of law here. If anyone's interested, you can go look that up. And I'm sure that this is what the judge is going to cite when he renders his decision on this. Trial Cruiser says they've been convicted. Sorry, not sorry. Lindsay says, lady, I promise you nobody is basing their opinion of you off of Court TV's little snippet. We hear your own words and see your own actions. She is exhausting. So this goes on, and the comments are pretty typical. I like this little gift that's being added here. The audacity. Yeah, I think she's squeezing every drop of attention out of her final opportunity to be seen outside of prison. So yeah, the courts are public hearings. Court TV is bringing it to the public. They have a right to do that. I personally hope that the judge will grant the request for cameras to be in the courtroom. I would appreciate live streaming because I know I'm not going to be able to be there the whole time. And it would be nice to be able to see it, although, definitely triggering for a lot of people to hear her voice, to see her carry herself in court as just arrogant, entitled, to see all of those narcissistic traits being just on display all the time, knowing what she did to her own children. So this is the sentiment I agree with. Shame on what she allowed and encouraged to do to her beautiful children. Shame on cheating on Charles and Tammy. Shame on using her children for money. Basically, shame on claiming crazy religious BS. And I agree. So I think everybody sort of feels the same way about this. I have yet to hear anybody who is, excited or happy about her representing herself, except for Kay. Kay has expressed that she's like excited, bring it on. She's ready for this fight. So, if Lori is going to, put on a show for, some dog and pony show, at least I'm glad that Kay isn't going to feel re-victimized. Now, there's been a lot of speculation about who might be called as a witness in this case. I've expressed that it's my hope that as many family members as possible will be called to answer for their role during the days leading up to and following Charles's death. And I'm grateful that this is an opportunity for us to get justice for Charles. So I don't know if anybody has questions. I didn't expect to be on here for a super long time this morning, just to bring this little snippet of news to let you know the latest and to just let you know where we stand with this, because I'm interested to find out what the judge is going to say about cameras in the courtroom. I'm looking forward to that ruling from him, and I hope that it is live streamed, because I know I'm not going to be able to be there the whole time, and I do want to hear all of the testimony. Although I also am not looking forward to Lori being able to cross-examine and to use it as an opportunity to preach her crazy religious beliefs, which I believe she will do. I'm sure that the judge will shut any of that down. And if she gets, too far off center from actually trying the case in a dignified manner, the judge will remove that right from her and reassign her to have counsel representing her. I agree with you, McSpunky. Translated beings are super weird. Who knows what goes on in their celestial minds, their alleged minds. I appreciate your comments. Again, thanks for being here, guys. Thanks for going on this crazy journey with me to, just have a little update in what's going on with Lori's case. I expect the judge will probably render a decision on this. I don't know if he will have a hearing on it. I think that the state and the defense have both submitted their responses to Court TV's request. So I don't think there necessarily needs to be a hearing unless the judge really wants to hear expanded arguments from either one of the parties. And so he may just render an opinion, as he did on Lori's last motion she was moving to have the Brandon Boudreaux portion of her trial dismissed. And the judge just summarily ruled, no, we're not going to dismiss this, and here's the reason why. He didn't even have a hearing on that. Hey, surviving the survivor is in the house. Love you guys, Joel, Carm, and the COE. Thanks for gifting memberships. Thanks for being here. Just updating everyone that Lori has filed a response to Court TV's request to have cameras streaming in the courtroom, and her very wild response includes an accusation that Court TV has basically used her and Chad Daybell as a commercial for Court TV that constantly runs 24/7 throughout the day and falsely characterizes, libels, and slanders the defendants, which I think is a pretty bold and hilarious, grandiose, very narcissistic take on what's happening over at Court TV. I'm curious, Surviving the Survivor, if you agree, if you've even seen anything on Court TV lately that even mentions Chad and Lori's case. But then Lori then says Court TV should be ashamed of its very nature and ashamed of its request. Its sole objective is not to bring people real news or facts, but instead its objective is to entertain the public with the very true life tragedies that happen in real people's lives. And nobody is sorry for you, Lori. You definitely have brought all of this on yourself. But again, it's not surprising that she wants to play the victim in this crazy tragedy. And McSpunky, thank you so much for gifting a membership. I appreciate that. As always, I appreciate any support that you give the channel. The best way to support for free is to subscribe. Please like the episode. Don't mind dishes breaking in the background. This is a real household where real people live. It's not a studio, so these things are going to happen from time to time. Zero wants to know if Lori has any anonymous supporters. Well, it's interesting to contemplate what constitutes support, because I do know, and I've been in touch with people who are communicating with her. She has a little iPad that she's allowed to text under certain circumstances, and she is texting actively with a group of people who are on the outside. And the reports that I receive from those people are that she is continuing to teach her crazy religious beliefs using the super harmful book Visions of Glory as her quote unquote Bible supplement to the Mormon ideology and Chad's theology as well. And from what I understand, as long as you want to talk religion with her and you are interested in her take on religion, that she will talk to you as long as you like. If you ask her anything about the case or the children, she will cut you off and not talk to you. So could you consider those people supporters? I suppose. Is it possible that they are just trolling her to learn more about her crazy beliefs? Yes, I suppose that's true. I also do know that there's a huge contingent of people who gain some kind of validation over communicating with prisoners. So that's kind of a different segment of population as to whether or not they agree with her or support her, quote unquote, or believe her narrative is a different story. And that's not something I think we can ever necessarily assess. At one point, I know she was communicating with her mom regularly, and I was shocked to see at her last hearing that her mom, Janice, and her sister, Summer, were present at the hearing. This is the first time that they've shown up and in public at any one of her court appearances. So they did sit on the side of the prosecution, but nothing to read into there. It's a super small courtroom. The camera was over near the defense side, and so there may not have been room for them to sit over by the defense. According to Justin Lum and Nate Eaton, who were there in the courtroom, they waved at each other, smiled at each other, but didn't have a chance to actually communicate. So whether her family members are, quote unquote, supporting her, I would be shocked at this point if even her mom and her dad and her sister were, quote unquote, supportive of her. In other words, believing her narrative or believing that she is somehow innocent. I would even be shocked if they still maintain the narrative that this was self-defense, because that was the family story that came out afterwards. Everybody was saying, Charles attacked Alex and this was purely self-defense. I don't buy that for a second, especially given the fact that Alex had already assaulted Joe Ryan, who was Lori's third husband. He was arrested, tried, convicted, and served jail time for that assault. So he had a record of being violent with Lori's former husband. And the idea that this could possibly have just been a self-defense situation and not a premeditated conspiracy is pretty ridiculous, if you ask me. So if there's anybody in the family who still believes that narrative, I would be shocked given everything that's happened since then. But unfortunately, I wouldn't be super surprised to find members of the family being somewhat delusional about what actually did happen. Because if they admit that it was not self-defense, then they have to re-examine their own role in that they talked openly with Lori and Alex afterwards and maintained the narrative that Alex was not a murderer. One of the most interesting statements I think that has come out from the family was after Alex's death, when they held his funeral. It was just a small group of people, and Janice's comment was they only invited people to the funeral who didn't believe that Alex was a murderer. So at that point in December, with the children's whereabouts still completely unknown and Lori still not communicating at all with the family members about where the children might be, at that point, Janice was still maintaining that Charles's death was self-defense by Alex. And so I don't know if the cognitive dissonance of that hurdle has been overcome yet in wake of everything that's happened. But this is why this trial is interesting to me, because these are the things that I want to know and understand. So I really appreciate your question. Idaho Spud Girl asks, anyone know if Lori will be calling Potato Head as a witness? I assume you're referring to Chad. He is currently on death row in Idaho in the deaths of the children and Tammy. And so I don't know what the rules are about whether or not she can call him as a witness. I think if she can show good cause that he would have something materially to contribute to the defense, it's possible she could call him as a witness. Most likely, I think, though, he would appear via Zoom or something like that. I don't think that they would take the trouble to transport a death row prisoner. There would be a lot of risk in that. So I doubt that he would actually get to come to court. And it could be that the judge can disallow his testimony, being that, they decided not to prosecute him as a potential conspirator in this case because of the unlikelihood of conviction. So I don't know what the rules are about that, but it'll be interesting to see when the witness list comes out, if she attempts to put him on it and if the state has an objection to that and if the judge would grant that objection. So no idea. Likely, if she did call Chad as a witness on her behalf, she would likely ask him to testify to the fact or to the idea that Lori and Chad and Alex were not communicating prior to this incident that happened on July 7th of 2019. And of course, we know that that would be false because we already have text messages and emails and other communications that came out during the previous two trials that Chad and Lori were in communication with each other, that there was this idea already out there that Charles was a zombie at this point, and statements that were recounted by Charles that Lori made, referring to him as a zombie and saying that she could murder him with his powers and all of those things. So it's just very, it'll be interesting to see what she even tries to come up with as a defense, because there's already been so much evidence presented in the other two trials that arguably could be used in this trial as well to refute any of her crazy claims. Meme of 8, I agree. I've never seen a commercial. Maybe she saw it through her delusional mind. And I suppose it's possible. I know that Vinnie Politan Investigates is a show that Court TV puts on, and it's possible she saw a trailer for that show when he did talk about her crimes. But to have it as a 24/7 commercial is just a wild delusion. Very self-important, very grandiose. How is Lori able to submit typed motions? She has a paralegal that's been assigned to her by Judge Boreski in the court that helps her to prepare these motions, helps her to make appointments to interview witnesses, and helps her to get, for example, the street clothes that she might need when she's going to present her defense. And so yeah, she's got help along with her advisory counsel, which she has 2 attorneys as advisory counsel and her paralegal that's serving as an assistant for her, basically. Yeah, and thanks again for gifting memberships. So kind of you. And Roxy, I agree with you. I think she has to do them by hand, and then the paralegal probably types them up. So lots of love for Surviving the Survivor in this chat. Everyone on this channel loves Surviving the Survivor. I was on there the other day to talk about the Corey Richins case, and we do keep in touch about the updates on this case as well. And at some point, I'm sure we'll get together and talk about it. By the way, Surviving the Survivor has a new channel. I believe it's called Surviving the Survivor Talk, headed up by the COE, where there are conversations about true crime. So I hope you'll go check out that new channel and subscribe to them as well. Margie Z, thank you so much for the super sticker, the super chat. I really appreciate you guys supporting this channel. It just feels good to know that there are people out there that care about this message. And the message that I always talk about is that by understanding Lori and how we got here, how Lori got to be who she was, we can understand some of these traits in ourselves and our own family members. And by learning how to hold people accountable for their potentially harmful, manipulative, controlling behaviors, we can prevent further tragedies from happening, and at the very least, prevent people from being in a position to be subjected to narcissistic abuse and to be subjected to coercive control. If you're interested in a deep dive on how to defend yourself against manipulative and controlling people, I have an e-course where I do 8 modules, over 16 hours of live content, as well as a live Facebook discussion group for people who are dealing with narcissists or controlling people or bullies in their lives. And if you want to get more information about that, you can email me at askmegan, that's askmegan with 2 E's, @gmail.com. And I'm happy to send you the course information. As well, I give away a lot of that information free here on the channel. The e-course is definitely a deep dive, giving you specific tools that you need for your situation to help you learn how to deal with the manipulative people in your life so that they stop stealing your energy. So yes, this is correct. Lynn Bowen, she can wear street clothes during the trial. That is part of her constitutional right to appear before a jury of her peers, not in prison attire. Thanks, Vala. This is kind of you. I'm so proud of you for being able to rise above all this toxicity around you. It's inspiring because that's not an easy task. And I agree, it has not been easy. I have done a lot of therapeutic work. It's taken many, many years for me to recover from the narcissistic abuse that I suffered in my family of origin. And I want to help other people do the same. And I just want to be here to tell you you're not alone. It is not your fault. And you don't have to go through it by yourself. We're here for you here. And I just want to help other people to come through it and to be able to survive and thrive on the other end. So thank you so much for being here. Please like the episode if you're here enjoying this Q&A. If you find it helpful, share it with somebody who you know would need to hear it. Yeah, Joe Schmo, she's had a lot of weird motions. One of them stated that she shouldn't have been charged because Chad and another co-conspirator weren't charged. Yeah, but she was kind of the main one, and she's the only one still living who was in the house that day. So she is the only one that can really be held accountable for this. Raque says, I can't wait for the scriptures to battle with Melanie G. I'll be interested to see if they call her again. She was definitely in the thick of it right before this happened. Michelle's Mixed Media Madness, missed hearing that info, so thanks. I knew about advisory council. So yeah, she's that's not pro se. Well, yeah, I mean, she's representing herself, but almost every instance, at least that I know of, where someone is representing themselves, they do have advisory council because they still have to follow the rule of law. They still have to follow court procedure, and they do need to be advised about what's proper and what's improper. And so the defendant can say, I want to make this argument. Advisory council can say, well, there's no legal basis for that argument. Or they can say, here are the cases that might give you a legal basis for this argument. And I think she really does need it because can you imagine the things that she would be trying to say if she didn't have advisory council helping her formulate arguments and helping her cite case law? It would just be a wild free for all. So this, advisory council is designed to give her a little bit more, not only credibility, but also just to help her not stray too far off of the legal path. Not sure that she has more help than Sarah Boone before that one took it on. I don't know how much help Sarah Boone had. I believe from what I saw, she had at least one person. And it's Joe Schmo, it's technicality. Pro per is what the state of Arizona uses. It's pro se in a lot of other places. So it basically means the same thing. Ray Dunn says, I hope it becomes such a circus, so little re-victimizing. If it does become a circus, I think we can be assured that Judge Boreski will shut it down. He's very no nonsense. He so far has not put up with Lori's silliness. She has had some silly arguments that he has taken her to task on and really put the screws to her to really explain this to me, explain your thinking to me. So it seems like it's going to be pretty straightforward from the judge's standpoint. He's not going to allow any of that craziness to come into the court. Lynn Bowen says, I could have used your e-course a few years back, several family members and an ex-husband, all narcissistic. Yeah, and it's not an e-course that's designed to necessarily let's diagnose your family members. It's not that at all, but to help you understand narcissistic traits, to help you understand coercive control, but mainly to understand what you personally can do to make sure that you're affected by this behavior as little as possible. And also to spot manipulation, because a lot of people don't really see it or understand it until they've already experienced it or become a victim of it. And by that time, you've already experienced some damage. So learning to identify these behaviors in advance gives you a little bit of a leg up so that when someone starts manipulating you, gaslighting you, for example, or trying to minimize your experience, a little light bulb can go off and say, that sounds kind of manipulative, and just fostering emotional resilience and a belief in your own abilities, trusting your own instincts, and learning to be emotionally resilient. And so that's mainly what the course is for. Thank you so much, Raque, for this donation. I really appreciate you. Again, I don't know if they're super stickers or super chats. I don't know if it matters either way, but either way, I appreciate your support so much. It means a lot to me, and it helps me know that I'm doing something that's valuable to the community. So Young Black Economist, always good to see you. Thanks for being a channel member. I appreciate it. I'm getting ready to launch on February 14th, which is my Independence Day, for a couple of different reasons. I'm launching a new community, which is going to be a space where we as beautiful humans can come together, share our experiences, and where you will be able to get a lot more bonus content. People have asked me for things that are not related to Lori's case, not related to Mormonism, not related to narcissism. For example, sharing some of my singing and piano playing, sharing some of my recipes and cooking ideas and things like that. So if you're looking for bonus content, look for an announcement on February 14th. I'm going to launch my new Kajabi community, which I think is going to be a great place for people to come and get together and have chat and support each other and just find a community of like-minded, beautiful human beings that we can just relate to each other. Thank you, Latter Daily Digest, a big supporter of the channel. Share, like, and subscribe. Thanks for being here, as always. Ray Dunn has a question. Is narcissism... I want to reframe. Maybe you're asking, is narcissism hereditary? Is that what you're asking? Like, is it passed down? Is it genetic? There's nothing to suggest that it's genetic in any way. However, I believe that these relational patterns are passed down through family members. When you have a parent with coercive, controlling, or manipulative, or narcissistic traits or tendencies, and as a child, you learn that that's the way to relate to other people, it's very possible for children of narcissistic parents to adopt some of those same relational patterns and use them in their life growing up later in their relationships. However, because of the different roles that exist within narcissistic family systems, it's also possible for people to come out of those family systems, me included, without narcissistic tendencies. And that's one of the things I talk about in my e-course. There are lots of different types of narcissistic families. There are lots of different roles that people play within those families. And understanding those roles and how they shape our perception and our relationships going forward can really help us to relate to people in healthier ways. And that's why I believe this conversation is so important. Narcissism kind of gets thrown around as a buzzword lately without really being deeply understood. And a lot of therapeutic clinicians don't have training in personality disorders because personality disorders are so difficult to treat. In psychology and licensing for therapeutic licensing, they focus on the things that are treatable, and personality disorders normally are not. So there is a lack of education, even in the psychological community, about narcissism and narcissistic personalities. So I have a lot of resources that I can recommend for anyone going through this kind of abuse. Also, I have videos on my channel that describe these different things. So understanding the roles and understanding how our perceptions are shaped when we grow up in family systems like this is a way of breaking those cycles and preventing them from continuing. When I was a young mother, I recognized some harmful behaviors in my mothering techniques, and I had to go full stop, jump off the treadmill, and re-examine my life and my behaviors in order to break the cycle and to do something differently for my children. So it is possible. I don't think it's genetic, but I think people do pass it on as they, learn to relate this way because it's been modeled for them by a parent or other family member who is important to them in their development. So thanks for asking that question. Harriet says, I'd like to see the indictment. Does it mention co-conspirators besides her and Alex, like in Idaho, co-conspirators known and unknown? I believe that it does. I will have to pull up the indictment and take a look at it. I'll bring it up in a future video to answer this question for you, to unpack that indictment, because I jumped on to following the case in depth after the indictment, after she was arraigned and everything like that, because I had other things going on at the time. So I will do a video that's specific to the indictment. Thank you so much for bringing this up. I'm actually going to make a note, because if I don't, my ADHD brain will kick it out. So I'm just making a note to look that up and present it, and I will do that. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Thanks for being here from Facebook, Mindy. Vala, thanks for being here. I do have an awesome little community here. The chat is very supportive. The comments are very supportive. This is a place where you can come and feel safe to share your experiences and opinions and know that they will be understood and validated. Under your scars, yes, narcissism is a learned behavior to a large degree, although a lot of people don't realize that's what they're learning and they come out of it not realizing it. I did a really interesting interview a couple weeks ago with Jonathan from House of Deconstruction on TikTok, who is a self-aware narcissist or previous narcissist. He left a relationship realizing that he had these unhealthy dynamics, and he did the really hard work to learn about them and heal from them so that he didn't pass it on. And now he teaches other people, especially those coming out of high demand religion, how to unlearn those narcissistic patterns that actually sometimes get taught when you're in a religion that teaches that you are special and important and more special and more important than the rest of the world. So he has some fascinating things to say. You can find that video on my channel about the self-aware narcissist. It's really, really important, an important conversation. So I appreciate it. Thank you for your comments and your questions, guys. I want to make sure that I answer everything that you're asking me this morning. For those of you who are joining us late, Lori Vallow Daybell has filed a response to Court TV's petition to have cameras in the courtroom, where she accuses Court TV of running a slanderous, libelous commercial of her and Chad Daybell 24/7. She objects to the live stream and the distribution, just based on the fact that she thinks that Court TV is exploiting tragedies for entertainment, basically. Hey, Terry, thanks for saying this. Terry is one of the people taking my live e-course right now. She says it's empowering and healing. There are many different people in life that can bully. I recommend this highly. Thanks so much for that. That means a lot to me. It helps me know that the material I'm presenting is valuable and important. So I really appreciate that. Not genes, but learned under your scars says, and I agree with this. Zero says those who grew up under abuse can marry into the same because it seems normal. And yes, that was the case in my marriage as well. I tended to choose partners for myself that felt familiar. The relational dynamics felt familiar. And so I did end up in a coercive control marriage for 22 years. And it took me a long time to break out of that and to heal from it. And that's what my main passion and goal is, to help other people heal from those kinds of situations, or to prevent them from getting into this situation in the first place by recognizing the dynamics of manipulation and control. And I do a lot of that here on the channel. So if that seems important to you, please subscribe, please like, and please share this video with someone who you know needs to hear it. I appreciate you guys being here. Joe Schmo, thanks for reminding us of this. The defendant's motion filed on December 6, 2024 mentions Chad Daybell and Melanie Pawlowski as conspirators that were never charged. So that's interesting, too, to look at it from the standpoint that Lori is basically admitting that Chad and Melanie were part of the conspiracy. And she's like, where are their charges? They haven't been charged, so I shouldn't be charged either. It can be seen sort of as an admission that there was a conspiracy going on, if she alleges that Chad and Melanie were conspirators, and they weren't even there that morning, on the morning of Charles's death. So that's interesting. I'm definitely going to look that one up as well. I'm going to look that up, the 12-6 filing. And we'll cover all of that at once. We'll go back over. I'll do a little recap before the trial starts on what's been filed so far. And I'm also going to do a timeline of the entire case for those of you who may be coming to Arizona with this for the first time. Digging back into the Idaho case can get super confusing. There are so many different events and people and players and family members to understand. I will analyze all of that for you and go over a whole timeline of the entire thing that hopefully will give you a really clear picture of exactly what was happening when, and to go over all of the things that are the most important to understand in this case. So you'll be able to have a better handle on all of the facts and the things that may come in this trial. I'll be interested to see if Judge Boreski allows anything from the Idaho trial to come in here, although everything covered in the Idaho trial happened after Charles's death. It'll be interesting if they allow anything to come in that happened after this. I don't know if the judge will allow any of that, but it'll be interesting to see. Heidi Miller says narcissism, I think is what you're referring to, may not be genetically inherited, but it is a learned behavior, therefore handed down from generation to generation. Yeah, which is what we've talked about just now. I'm sorry about this, Destiny. Good to see you here. Glad you're here. It may be a Facebook setting on my end, so I apologize. I'll take a look at that after the live stream is over. Joe Talchi says, I can't like or love someone who is mean to me. And I agree with this 100%. You deserve to be treated with kindness and respect, as we all do. And if you're ever in a situation where someone is disrespecting you or being unkind to you, you don't have to put up with that. It is not, nobody is entitled to treat you that way, no matter what the circumstances are. So I appreciate you making that comment. Under Your Scars says Melanie made a deal. In my opinion, that is definitely possible. It's been alluded to before, although I wouldn't know the exact details of that deal or what she was given in exchange. I do think that she was very heavily involved prior to Charles's death. We know there was a lot of communication between her and Lori in the years and months leading up to Charles's death. And so it'll be interesting to see what comes out of their communications. What more can we learn that we didn't learn in the other two trials? Young Black Economist says, Joe Schmo, I'm glad for all you who file for docs. I kind of want to learn how. I filed one FOIA before that got approved, but it was a FOIA on myself after being a witness in a State Department case. So yeah, FOIA requests can be kind of tricky, and it varies from state to state and from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. So unless you have specific knowledge of how to do it, it can be a little bit of a learning curve. I personally am really grateful for Hidden True Crime. That's where I have gotten all the FOIA documents on all of these cases up to this point. It's a lot easier for me to go on their Patreon and do that than try to file my own FOIA requests. And so I really appreciate the work that Lauren Mathias and Dr. John Mathias do on this case. If you haven't checked out their channel, I highly recommend it. She is a former journalist. She was a journalist for 10 years covering Utah and Idaho. Her husband, John Mathias, is a forensic psychologist. The duality of those two things is perfect for true crime. And I think out of all of the channels that I've seen out there, they are the most respectful to victims, to families, and they're dedicated to an understanding of the psychology of these crimes. And Dr. John says an understanding of true crime is an understanding of ourselves. That's a sentiment that I echo. And over here on this channel, we do some of the same work, digging into our own shadow traits, our own shortcomings, failings, the things that are in ourselves that we don't like jealousy, envy, anger, rage, all of those traits that we all have. And sometimes we want to ignore or push those away. But I really believe by digging into those traits that we can prevent ourselves from turning into a Lori. I believe that when we try to deny those things and pretend like they don't exist, they're going to come out in dysfunctional ways. So by dealing with our anger, our jealousy in healthy ways, by admitting that we have those feelings and by honoring those feelings and then not acting on them, I think we can get to a healthier place. I'm always an advocate for healthier family relationships, healthier religions, and healthy individual self-love, where we learn to accept all the parts of ourselves. And so I really appreciate the discussion around learning about these things. So Zero says, Melanie might have wanted to hide her own affair. She would have done almost anything to keep that secret. I don't know if she was having an affair. I know that seems to be kind of a pattern among these conspirators that were named. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out. Joe Schmo, I appreciate your perspective. He says, I have a different opinion of Hidden True Crime. I met Lauren in Delphi. I won't get into it here. I love that you've had positive interactions with them. I know the Delphi case has been super controversial. There seem to be two really polarized opinions. I didn't follow that case in depth or in its entirety. I only have room for one or two really deep, heavy cases in my life. But I do respect the fact that people can can observe the same facts and come to different conclusions. And that's one of the reasons why I think our justice system is set up very well, that we have a jury of our peers, and they have to come to a consensus on guilt or innocence. I know that there are a lot of polarized opinions because a lot of people believe heavily that the wrong person was accused and tried and convicted in this case. And so I appreciate opposite or differing perspectives. I want this channel to be a place for healthy civil discourse. And so I appreciate you bringing this up. I'm never averse to push back on my opinion or anyone else's. So it's always interesting to me to see both sides of the story, because I believe that we can see merit in the arguments on both sides. And I think we can see fault or failing in the arguments on both sides. So I appreciate you bringing up a differing opinion. I don't know if you've watched any of the coverage on their other cases or not, but I think it might be interesting to look into their coverage on another case and see if you feel the same way about their coverage of the Delphi case. I don't believe in being in an echo chamber myself. I like to listen to the voices of people I disagree with, just to sort of check myself and see what other opinions are out there, and the ways in which I might have blind spots or failings on my own part. And there have been many times when I have learned very valuable and important things from people who have disagreed with me. So I appreciate that perspective. Under Your Scars says, mental health help is not easy to access financially or otherwise. I'm in Canada. It's terrible, even when covered. And I agree with you, Under Your Scars, which is why I believe in helping to plug people into resources where they can do some of their own work. Now, if you have severe trauma, or if you have really heavy, difficult emotions that are coming up for you, there are some different mental health hotlines that you can dig into. Specifically, the suicide hotline is 988 here in the United States. There's also a domestic abuse hotline that you can access via chat or text 24/7. So I just want you to know there are resources out there for you. I'm sad about the fact that mental health help is so difficult to access for so many people. And unfortunately, even when you do have access for it, or you do have insurance that helps pay for it, there's no guarantee that you're going to get someone who's competent. If you have narcissistic abuse, or if you have heavy trauma that has come up in your past, I highly recommend seeking out someone who is trauma informed and someone who has experience in narcissistic abuse. It's really important. And that's why I like this supportive community here, where we can share our feelings and our concerns, and know that at least that we're not alone in our journey of seeking to be healthier people. Ray Dunn, thank you for putting this here, because there are two Melanies. Melanie Gibb and Lori Vallow only knew each other for 2 years. Melanie Pulowski, formerly Boudreaux, is Lori's niece. They've known each other their whole lives, although Melanie was estranged from the Cox family for a time when her father, Steve Cope, had custody of her. But Melanie and Lori were very close for most of Melanie's adult life. After the age of, I believe, 14, 15 or so, Melanie had regular access to the Cox family. They became very, very close. Melanie Pulowski looked to Lori Vallow as a mother figure because her own mother passed away when she was just 8 years old. So I just want to clarify, there are two Melanies. We refer to Melanie Pulowski as Melanice because she's Lori's niece. Lori's niece. And then Melanie Gibb was Lori's friend, who she only knew for 2 years. Lindsay asks, Megan, did you get a new camera or lighting or new stuff in the background? Anyways, both of you, and everything looks great. Thanks so much. Yeah, when I first started my podcast, and when I first started doing videos about the Daybell trial, I was literally in my closet with just a curtain behind, covering up my clothing. And I was just using the camera on my laptop. And now that I have a sponsor for the channel, I was able to obtain some lighting and camera equipment to spruce up the appearance. And now I'm out in my main room. This is my bookshelf behind me instead of being in my closet. So I am now, the Third Verse channel is now represented or sponsored by a company called Revolutionary Media. Revolutionary Media is a company that's dedicated to helping ordinary people like you and me to turn their skills and expertise into a financial benefit for them by helping them set up a YouTube channel or whatever other digital outlet they want to share their expertise, extra money for retirement or hobbies, or even as a full-time income. When I first started this journey, I made a ton of mistakes and I wasted a ton of money on products and services that I really didn't need. Revolutionary Media helps you take your idea from that first spark all the way to monetization in the quickest and most financially efficient way possible. So I'm going to have information about how you can access Revolutionary Media's services on my website at third-verse.com. It's currently under construction, but if you want to email me at askmegan@gmail.com, that's Megan with 2 E's, then I will get you all the information, plug you into that resource. Matt and Josie helped me at Revolutionary Media to set up my online presence and to make all of my content cohesive and to make sure that it's reaching the widest audience possible. So I really appreciate their help. And this has all been part of my sponsorship by Revolutionary Media. So thanks for asking. I'm super grateful to have a sponsor helping out financially. If you'd like to help support the channel financially, I do have a Venmo. I do have a Patreon, and all of my social media can be found at @third_verse on Instagram, TikTok, and everywhere else you consume podcasts. So I just want to make sure that I'm getting everybody's questions. Just this little live today was just to report that Lori responded to Court TV's request to have cameras in the courtroom, and Lori does not want cameras in the courtroom. She's claiming that Court TV should be ashamed of its coverage and that they have exploited and libeled and slandered herself and her husband, Chad Daybell. So I think, Janice Smith, this is true. Some of the best liars on earth are adults who are abused or neglected as kids. When confronted, they can switch from story to story with no pause or even change in affect. It can be really difficult to detect, especially when they believe their own lies, as you're saying here. So it's definitely important to learn the skills of detecting those behaviors. And if you sense something is off, if you sense there is a red flag, to, go and find somebody who has been through that, or come here to this channel to learn some of those tactics and tricks so that you can learn how to defend against it. Yes, Young Black Economist, thanks for saying this. Also disagreed with Hidden True Crime on the Delphi case, but you still chat, stay respectful, and never got banned. Some of the mods disagreed with her even on that case. And I agree, lots of polarized opinions on that. So I just think that civil discourse is where it's at. Important to put your opinion out there respectfully, and to just be kind as you present a differing point of view, which I appreciate about the people who are here on this channel as well. I agree with this. Ray Dunn, Heather Daybell was the best interview I ever saw all my life. She is the former sister-in-law of, well, I guess she still is sister-in-law, even though he's in prison, of Chad Daybell. And she had a lot to say about how these crimes came to pass and about the LDS Church's involvement in that. You can see that interview on Hidden True Crime. I believe that's the only place that Heather Daybell did an interview regarding Chad. So it's a really important one to watch if you want to understand the dynamics between Chad and Lori. I also did a video on my channel about when I believe Lori and Chad really met. I believe that they met far prior to the first in-person meeting. I believe they were communicating on a website called Avow, A Voice of Warning. That group has been labeled as a terrorist group by a terrorist watch group, as an extremist group. And I believe that is where Lori and Chad first started to chat about their doomsday prepper beliefs. And I believe that the two of them together were like gasoline on a fire as far as their beliefs and as far as, the harmful ideas that they perpetuated during that time. That forum is still up and running, by the way. They have taken down Lori and Chad's content, but it's still up and running. And the Preparing a People conference that Lori and Chad met at in person, that has just been rebranded and repackaged as LDS Media. The same people are running it, and they still continue to have these doomsday prepper conferences. So I always like to call attention to those things. And I like for people to know that that's still going on. There are still people out there who believe some of these crazy beliefs. There are still people who love the book Visions of Glory, which I think is a super harmful book because it promotes justifiable homicide. It needs to be taken off the shelves, even at used bookstores. And I did a whole 8 hour, unpack with Mormon Stories podcast, Lauren Matthias of Hidden True Crime, and Mindy Caldwell, where we call out the harmful dynamics of that book and the other problematic people who are associated with the person who wrote the book, Tom Harrison, who is a therapist in Utah, who connected with the likes of Tim Ballard, met with Chad Daybell and Julie Rowe, was a mentor to Jody Hildebrand, convicted child abuser, and who still has an influence over the LDS Church and therapeutic circles in Utah. These people need to be called out. Their platforms need to be shut down. As of yesterday, you could still go on Spotify and listen to Jody Hildebrand and Ruby Frankie's ridiculously unhinged and crazy podcasts with weird beliefs about how to raise children that resulted in child abuse in several instances. These platforms need to get taken down and to end. And this is part of what I talk about on this channel. If you have any influence over any of those, I know that you can report things to Spotify. Their social media is still up on Instagram and Facebook. Please report these people. Please get these things taken down, and please spread the word. These people are out there and they are still perpetuating harm on people. So Crafty Chris, you are not inaccurate. Lori is not in a position to demand anything, but she will continue to do so as long as she has the ability to file legal motions, which I think that she will probably continue to do. Thanks, Lindsay, for this. It was just manifestation and believing in myself and acting as if it was going to happen. And I'm grateful for it. And I hope that it continues. So yes, you're right, McSpunky. I came out of the closet, although sometimes I still do go back in there when there are loud things happening in my house, because it's not the biggest of houses. And as you can hear sometimes in the background, my dogs or my kids are, just living their best lives over here while I'm on a live stream. So Robert Reagan, thank you for addressing the importance of having someone competent who understands the narcissistic thing. I was in covert narcissist hell for decades. Yeah, and it can be really difficult to overcome. So I don't know if they gave her a computer or if this was just her paralegal being able to type out her handwritten motions. So Young Black Economist says court TV does kind of get into the sensationalism sometimes, but others on mainstream media can be even worse towards certain defendants. But they have free speech, so Lori is out of luck, in my opinion. Yeah, and they're not saying anything about her that is untrue. That's my point, is that they are just, they're putting the facts out there, and if the facts make you look terrible, maybe just don't do terrible, horrible things. You can't complain when someone tells the truth about your harmful actions, even if it makes you look bad. So I'm going to try to wrap it up here, guys. I want to answer any questions that are still here. Thanks, Lindsay, for watching Mormon Stories. We also just recently did an episode about Sherry Frankie's new memoir, The House of My Mother, the four of us together. It's always a great collaboration with those people, and I thought it was a really important conversation. I love Sherry Frankie's book. I recommend everyone to read it. I really appreciate you guys. Joe Schmo, I believe Chad and Lori probably met in a past life. Well, that's definitely what they claimed. So yeah, it's funny for you to bring that up. Yes, Mindy too, Binder Mindy, she is just wonderful. Sean Little Bear said those conferences were popular hookup opportunities, and there was definitely some of that hooking up going on. Some of the soft swapping that has happened on Secret Lives of Mormon Wives certainly happened at those conferences as well. Yeah, and Spotify kicks out other people for less. Let's please get these podcasts taken down. I believe there are people still out there who think that Jody Hildebrand and Ruby Frankie's teachings were at the very least informative. And if anyone is still buying into that, their kids are in danger. It's just really ridiculous. Yeah, we definitely needed at least a mental health break after that 8 hours of digging into Visions of Glory. We read it so you don't have to. Please don't read it. Please don't buy it. Just go watch the episode. At the very least, the first 5 hours. It's 2 episodes. The first 5 hours was on the book itself and the harmful teachings. The second episode, which was about 3.5-ish, 4 hours long, was about the connections to all the other harmful people in this circle. They are all connected. So thank you for this. Zero, I love your helping abuse victims. When I was young, you had to go to a big city for help. I just want to be the person that I wish I had when I needed help. So that's what I'm hoping for, to help other people. Margie, thank you for this, for your support. Good friend of the channel here. And Young Black Economist, yeah, if you don't want people to say things about you, don't do crimes. That would be the most important one. Thank you so much for watching. I also did have an interview with John DeLynn just a couple of days ago on my channel, where we talked about institutional narcissism in the LDS Church, and how that can subject someone to the same types of harm as narcissistic abuse in a relationship or a family system. We also talked about the comparison between Lori and Ruby Franke and some of their similar beliefs and their similar patterns of relating to each other and to their family members. Sorry, ran out of words there for a second. Aaron, friend of the channel, also taking the e-course. Megan, thank you for all of your help to those of us following you here and in your class on bully proofing. Thanks for being a member. I really appreciate your support. Hello, MB. Thanks for saying hello to your beautiful humans. Michelle, thanks for being here. We'll go back and replay. Your interview with John was terrific. Thank you so much. Well, guys, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your support. Please, again, subscribe, like the episode, share it with those who need to know. And please come back for all things narcissism, Mormonism, true crime, and learning how to have healthier relationships with yourself, in your family, learning how to have healthier religious experience. I just want to be a good resource for people, for the things that I've been through to matter. I really want to just help other people to not go through the same things, or at least to give them support when they are going through the same things. So thank you for being here today. You can count on me to stay up on the trial coverage to bring you these updates, and look for that episode coming up soon with the indictment, with the December 6th filing mentioning co-conspirators, and all of the other motions that have come up. And yes, we put the fun in dysfunction. We're just here trying to support each other and have a little bit of levity and humor in this super dark case. As always, justice for Tylee, JJ, Tammy, and Charles, and Brandon. And thank you so much for being here to support as we seek for justice once again. And beautiful humans, please be good to each other, but most of all, be good to yourself. If you can learn self-compassion, if you can learn to accept and love all of the parts of yourself, then you will show up as the best version of yourself. And I really believe that an understanding like that can help us to heal the world. So join me in my passion to help other people become beautiful human beings, or more beautiful human beings than they already are. Help us to, accept all of the parts of ourselves, and that will help us foster greater compassion for the people around us as well, and the world in general. I'm grateful for you guys being here. Thank you for supporting this truly important work that I really believe deeply in, and I'll see you again soon. Take care.